Hello, and welcome to the Let's Talk Transformation podcasts. Today's episode will center in on what we all need more of in organizational life: curiosity, respect, and self-awareness. I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Julie Pham, founder and CEO of Curiosity Based. Julie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Susie.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Um, Julie, I know you've had an eclectic journey that has shaped who you are and your approach to these subjects. And one of your signatures is the seven forms of respect framework, which helps teams to understand internal dialogues, cultural backgrounds, and relational dynamics to influence how people collaborate. And I feel that as we go into this AI age, your work is even more relevant, as teams become more distributed, more culturally diverse, and organizations face this exponential increase of complexity. And we're still calling them soft skills. So I think we'll discuss that. Let's leave that there. But before the show, we were chatting about your unique journey as a self-taught organizational development consultant and how you were gaining practical insights through leading a Vietnamese newspaper through the 2008 Great Recession, and how you learnt the critical value of both sharing resources and building communities during a time of crisis. So can we start there? Can you tell us more about how that led you to where you are today?
Yes, it feels like right now we are returning to that time of crisis as well.
As I was
So
saying it, I was thinking goosebumps. Yeah, we're not that far from that, are we? So,
so a really important part of my identity is being a Vietnamese refugee. My parents founded this newspaper, and I got my real life MBA by running the newspaper during the Great Recession. This was after
mm,
I finished my PhD in history, and so a lot of my work as a historian was about perspective taking,
mm,
and then I realized that I could apply that to the community building and community organizing work I was doing running a newspaper.
mm,
Because in running a community newspaper, you have to be involved in the
mm,
community. And
mm.
that's when I just saw a lot of friction and tension come up and I realized that people had different ways of wanting to be treated and we often think how we want to be treated is the right way.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
totally. And I think it's all about the relational dynamics that are pretty invisible, aren't they, really? So, and what I find very impressive about your work is that you make them not only visible, but also tangible, and then we can actually do something with them. So, but it's also a journey of lifelong learning, isn't it? I mean, you've spent your life learning.
Yes, yes. Although Susie, you and I talked about academia before
Yeah.
and how it was a shift though from thinking about learning as being an accumulation of knowledge that I wrote about and then also rejected other scholars to, oh, I can actually just learn from other people. And how do we learn through conversation?
Mm,
And just a different kind of curiosity.
mm. But it's also that shift that's going on at the moment, isn't it, in the leadership world, particularly organizationally, is this shift from knowing to learning. So, the understanding that, I need to know, I need to have knowledge. Whereas today it's, I need to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn is more the leadership superpower. And of course, you can't do that without curiosity. So, you know, when you start working with a new team, Julie, what are the relational dynamics that you always look for first that might spark or stifle curiosity?
One of the things that, well, first, before I even look for those relational dynamics, is I ask them to do a quick self-assessment. And
Okay.
the way I do this is I ask, uh, how would you rate yourself on your self-awareness, relationship building, listening to understand,
Mm.
asking questions when you don't understand, and being able to share specific examples and stories? How would you rate others, your colleagues? And so there's
That's the
always this.
safer side of it.
Actually, I think I asked them to rate their their colleagues first and then themselves. And you can imagine, Susie, that oh, other people don't listen, but I listen well.
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah.
way that we rate ourselves. And actually, that to me isn't, oh, people aren't good listeners here.
Mm.
Actually, what it prompts is, huh, what does it mean to listen? And what
Mm.
does it mean for people to feel listened to? Because if people are saying, I'm a good listener, but I don't think my colleagues are a good listener, then maybe their ideas of even listening or what it
Mm.
means to feel heard different. And that's actually more about probing versus
Mm.
trying to correct listening skills.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because just because somebody's listening to you doesn't mean you're feeling heard. And I think
Hmm.
there's lots of amalgams around that and I think we spend 90% of our time listening to reply or to fix a solution and move on, as opposed to listening to understand. So what happens when you bring up that almost paradox of yes, you're listening, but the other person doesn't feel that he or she is being heard?
Well, then we have a discussion of what that means. And so for some people, being heard means I get what I want,
Mm,
right?
mm,
They think
yeah, yeah,
they
yeah.
see things are changed. And then we have to, well, is that realistic? Is that because that might be a correction in itself. Because if you think that being heard means I see change
Yeah.
the way that I want it, then that merits a discussion. So as you asked earlier, what are the other relational dynamics
Mm,
is do people feel safe that they can ask questions?
mm,
There's a study that shows 70% of people face obstacles asking questions at work.
mm,
And so even though many leaders say, hey, we need to have curiosity, curiosity is important, a lot of people don't feel safe. And there are so many different reasons for that. It's not just, I'm afraid that people are going to think that I'm incompetent.
mm,
It could be, I'm afraid that I'm going to look like I'm challenging people.
mm, mm,
It could be if I'm afraid that I'm going to look like I wasn't paying attention,
mm,
that I'm slowing down things. And so
mm,
to really dive deep into the granular what's going on, rather than just saying curiosity is important, because I think that's a lot of people are just, oh, we need to
mm,
have it. Actually, everyone knows why we need to have it. Just
mm,
let's get into the details of is this a culture that actually that allows for
mm. And I love that idea of, oh, curiosity, tick, values, tick, mission,
it?
tick. And I think
Right.
and I think intellectually, yes, we know we need it, and we understand what we think curiosity means. And this brings me to the multi-layered part of what you do, because we all have our own internal narratives, of course, which is what you were alluding to before, but we also have our cultural formatting.
Mhm.
And I'm really interested, Julie, we talked about this a little bit before around what complexity that cultural formatting brings to this subject of curiosity and how it is declined, because you're talking about speaking up, asking questions, listening, communication. They're very different, aren't they, according to which national culture you come from?
Mhm. Susie, I like how you described it as cultural formatting, and you and I have talked about being in
Yeah,
different in
yeah.
different countries and how that can influence how we communicate. And I believe that we belong to multiple cultures, communities, and identities at the same time, and
Mm,
that it's that national ethnic culture is one part of that.
mm.
There's also generational. There's also, I think we talked about birth order,
Yes,
even
we did.
just being
Family constellations, yeah, we did.
right, right. And then and also I try to be really clear that I don't think that there's any monolithic way of looking at this because
Mm,
sometimes I get, oh, well, how does this culture think about respect? And how do women think about respect?
yeah.
And and at the end of the day, it's just the curiosity part is practicing inward curiosity, considering all of my influences, what matters to me.
Mm, mm,
Because in I could grow up in a place where this is in a culture that this is really important, but at the end of the day, I don't really like it.
mm,
I'm reacting to it. And we
mm,
see that too. People react against what they've grown up with.
mm. And I think this whole idea of multiple identities um, is often difficult for people to get their head around, because I think, particularly in the West, we define identity as a block, a unique thing, whereas it isn't. It's a multiplicity of identities, depending on lots of things, life to date, educational formatting, experiences, and things like that. But even from the start, I believe that the self is multiple. There are multiple selves within the self. So what happens when you take that into quite a binary, sort of rational, logistic organization where leadership is about getting things done? And by getting things done, I mean transactionally. And I'm being very black and white about it, but there is this action bias and the busyness badge and just do, and you are your results as a leader.
hmm
So it's
hmm
about what you do and not who you're being.
hmm hmm And
So
this
yeah.
is and this is where we actually encourage people just to slow down and to reflect, and
Mm,
that pausing a bit can
mm,
actually save us a lot of time
mm.
and later on, because people spin up and try to come up with solutions right away without really understanding the problem. I often encourage people to, rather than just going straight to what gets in the way of curiosity, can actually be problem solving. It could be our
Yeah, okay.
it could be our need to, I need to find the solution, and yet sometimes we need to slow down and say, what is this problem teaching me?
Mm, mm.
And then what are the different ways that we might be seeing this problem based on our different experiences? And so once we get to that, and I said multiple cultures, communities, identities, an identity can be occupational.
Also, yes.
Right? It could be,
Yeah.
well, my function,
Mm,
I'm a plumber. I'm about fixing this thing.
yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
the architect, right? We're going to approach this problem differently.
Mm,
And oftentimes people are battling out, no, this is the better solution. This is the better solution. And what can be really helpful is to take a step back and even explain my training or my background.
mm,
This is how it informs how I'm seeing this. How
mm,
are you seeing this? And
mm,
then we can go into a more fruitful discussion.
mm. But that's quite a deliberate thought process that comes from system two in your brain, doesn't it? It's not an automatic reaction to something that you need to do quickly under pressure. And I'm coming back to the organization because there are so many organizational examples of pressure is high, tight deadlines, shifting priorities, external disruption now more and more. And curiosity is often the first thing to get dropped, like
hmm
innovation and learning and everything else, for lots of reasons. But what are some practices or rituals for leadership that will help move teams to maintain this curiosity during those periods? Because we do default to what's easiest, familiar, and essentially automatic.
hmm So here are some tips. The leader, Sometimes the leader of the group is considered the default facilitator of the meeting.
Yeah. Yes.
And so
Yeah.
even just having people rotate through that role. Hey,
Mm,
we're going to have a team meeting. Let's rotate through that role
mm,
of who's going to prepare. And that actually creates empathy for whoever's sitting in that seat.
yep. Yep.
And I also, sometimes it's about when we're having a when we're having a discussion about something that we think might be heated, or lots of different viewpoints, having the person who has the least power speak first, and that might be the intern.
Nice. Nice. Tell a little
Um,
bit more about the power dynamic and why you're suggesting they do that. I find that fascinating, Julie, and I'm
be-
sure it works for that reason.
because if the person who has the most power speaks first, then they are setting the tone.
Mm.
And so even on my team, we know this, and so uh, when someone else is facilitating, they'll say, Julie's going to speak last. Right?
Just
Because
signposting that.
and it's really interesting for me. I mean, we had this
Mm.
conversation pretty recently on my team, and I had to really practice curiosity because someone was suggesting a major change to one of our marketing tools.
Mm.
And at first I was like, okay, then I'm going to talk about why this way is right. Right? I'm thinking, I'm having a reaction to it. And luckily we spread it out. We're
Mm.
going to have this conversation. And I'm thinking about all the things. And then because I went last, I got to hear really great arguments, and I changed my mind at the end.
Oh,
So,
nice.
I was just
Okay.
like, okay, I see this. But we also were able to say, oh, and this thing that we think we have, this tool we think we need to have fixed, it's not just fixed in this one way.
Yeah.
We actually
Yeah.
need it fixed in three different ways, three separate questions. And it was the listening to people's concerns,
Mm.
where it's just, oh, it's not, it can't just be solved with one
Mm.
solution. So,
Mm.
so the building in the deliberate practice, and Susie, that's why I describe curiosity as a practice. It's not
Yes,
just something that
totally.
you have, because
Mm.
that's in the mission statements. Be curious. It's just actually we have to build in these curiosity practices. Another thing that I really encourage is spending time to at the beginning of a regular meeting for people to share what their highs and lows are.
Mm.
in their own
Mm.
life. And studies have shown that if people are able to do that, they are much more likely to talk about the challenges they're having at work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that it's not, oh, when it's my turn to give the status report, everything is going perfect. But actually, when you practice this just in the beginning,
Mm.
then it actually does influence how we talk about our work.
Mm. And it's the warm up, I suppose, isn't it, for the
Hmm.
for the curiosity muscle of being curious about what's being said in the meeting before you go to what's been done and what hasn't been done. Um,
Hmm. And it can help people understand what are you coming in to this
yeah,
meeting with.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. So it's essentially working the empathy muscle as well.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
nice. But and for all these practices for me are teams, leaders creating the conditions for innovation, but also for curiosity and also more importantly for respect.
Hmm.
So all voices are being heard. We might even change our mind with all the
Hmm.
different ideas on the table.
Hmm.
Respecting the space, respecting
Hmm.
everybody's right to express their opinion, respecting what's being said. I would like to come back to the seven forms of respect, and which you've put into a quiz, and thank you because it makes it really tangible and really understandable. But if you could walk us through not just the seven forms of respect, but why they're so important and what their role is in defining the conditions that you can create for a psychologically safe culture.
Hmm. So at a high level, the seven forms of respect is a framework to understand how respect is relative, it's
Yes.
dynamic, it's
Mm,
subjective, and it's also contradictory. And it's to shift the conversation
mm,
from respect being respect versus disrespect, because
yeah.
that's how we talk about it now. It's a binary. And
Binary.
that
Yeah.
means that we need to teach people how to be respectful. And if I'm not getting respect in the way I want, that must mean I'm
Mm,
being disrespected. And
mm,
shifting that to, these are my forms of respect. What are yours? And that's actually about curiosity around respect. And at the heart of seven forms of respect, it's how do we practice curiosity and assume that we have different ideas of what respect means.
mm,
And it's not, Susie, your intention to be disrespectful. It's just maybe we have different ideas. And so let's
mm,
talk about that. And then just very quickly, the seven forms we use this acronym called PICA, P-P-I-C-C-A-A, and
mm-hmm,
that's procedure, punctuality, information, candor, consideration, acknowledgement, attention. And so in that, we try to get people to think about what are the forms you prioritize
mm,
and what are the ones that you don't prioritize, and what do you prioritize on this team,
mm,
in your organization, and even just for yourself.
mm,
I mean, Susie, you and we've talked about living in different countries, and
yeah.
so I like to use the analogy of language in it.
Yeah.
And so in an organization, the at the national level, at that organization-wide level,
Mm,
the forms of respect people prioritize, that's like the national language.
mm,
And then there's the different departments. There's finance, there's marketing, there's engineering. They have different functions.
mm,
They have different leaders
yeah.
who also have different personalities.
Yeah.
And the forms of respect that they're going to prioritize work like regional dialects.
I love that analogy. And it,
And
yeah.
then there's
Yeah.
me. There's me. I have my own language
Yeah.
too. And yet, people who are most successful in any organization are multilingual.
Mm, mm,
And they understand that we need to switch, right? We understand fundamentally. And I think that is, right now, I see people trying to, there's such a focus on right or wrong, and there's a
yeah.
fear.
Yes.
There's a fear of being wrong. And so they want to know, I don't want to be wrong. I don't
Mm,
want to offend anyone. So tell me the right thing to do. And this is where she's, no, we're actually never going to be always perfectly
mm.
respectful
No.
because the other person's mood might be different that day too.
Mm.
So there's so many variables.
But it's the perfect imperfection that is a human, and I think
Mhm.
that's really important that because we put so much pressure on ourselves to be perfect all the time and nobody is. And I think it's
Mhm.
very refreshing to have that explicit understanding between us that, yeah, maybe one day I will be disrespectful without intentionally being so.
Mhm.
And so the more we can understand what respect means for the other person and for the collective, the better. And I like also the idea of it because the different things in that acronym are also going to vary according to cultural formatting,
Hmm.
aren't they?
Hmm. Yes.
And that's
Hmm.
where I really like the seven forms of respect in terms of the inclusive nature it brings to an understanding of we're different, and
Hmm.
that's fine. I will make a step to try and understand and accommodate that. I might not do it all the time because
Hmm.
I will try, but and so how do you see that being used in terms of research for intercultural working and giving leaders more insight into that? Because like you
Hmm.
say, respect's binary today. It's like speak up or psychological safety. It's safe or it's not. We can speak up or we can't. And it's so much more multi-layered than that.
Yes, I think it's about giving people a language
Mm,
to, so instead of saying let's be respectful here, it's just, what are the forms of respect we're prioritizing? So consideration is actually a really big one that
mm,
varies depending on culture. So consideration is interacting with people based on what you think that they want,
mm,
right? So
mm.
that's not asking. So the example I like to give is, do you surprise someone
Yeah.
or do you say, what do you want? Right? Because for some people, it's the thought that counts.
Mm.
And this one is actually the most complex because usually what happens is people want to be surprised, but they want that person to be right in their surprise. Right. And if
Give me a surprise I
if you
want.
guessed wrong, then you're not considerate.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yet that person who's making that guess, who's trying to delight that person, their coworker or whatever with a
Mm,
surprise, they're trying their best. Maybe
mm.
every time I gave you chocolates, you said you love chocolates, but inside you hate chocolates. But you kept telling me that you like
So now
chocolates.
you get chocolates.
Right? Right? Or I noticed that you did this thing, so I'm trying to repeat it, but I didn't realize that you were doing it because of other reasons.
Mm,
And so in any case, in some cultures, that there's an expectation of you should just know.
mm, mm.
You shouldn't it shouldn't to
Yes,
be explicit would be,
yes. Rude
oh,
almost. Yes.
right, 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 too direct, right? And in
Yeah.
others, it's like, no, don't guess.
Mm,
Please just ask me.
yeah.
And so that is a big one. And so when we can even understand that there's a difference in expectations,
Mm,
then that's when we can have that conversation. And Susie, going back to the imperfection piece, I tell people seven forms of respect is also, and respect is contradictory.
yeah.
And why is it contradictory? And then I ask people, do you always do what you say you're going to do?
Oh. And how do they react to that question? Are they
They're
curious or
just,
are they defensive?
they're like, oh, there's usually a look like, and I tell them, I don't.
Mm,
I mean to.
mm,
I want to.
mm,
That's my intention.
mm.
But I don't always do what I say I'm going to do or what I intend to do.
Yeah,
And that's why it's contradictory. And we are human.
yeah, yeah.
That's also about giving ourselves grace too. And if we can recognize that we are contradictory, then maybe we can also recognize that other people
Yeah.
can also be contradictory and don't always do what they intend to do.
Mm,
And then there's also, but maybe they don't understand that
mm,
that's happening. So
mm,
that's another thing too. So sometimes it's like I know I'm not doing what I said I'm going to do. And then sometimes people, oh, I didn't realize that you're interpreting what I'm doing as um as so for example, people could say time is really important, but they're always late. And
yeah.
they don't actually recognize it
Right.
in their mind. They
Yeah.
don't actually they don't recognize it until someone points out, hey, actually you're saying this and you're doing
Mm,
this. It's like, oh,
mm,
okay.
mm.
I didn't realize that.
But that's where curiosity becomes a practice, doesn't it?
Hmm.
Because I
Hmm.
mean, intellectually, I can understand it, and then I can just not change my behavior because I don't realize, or it's too
Hmm.
hard and it's conscious.
Hmm.
But mainly, it's because I don't realize that I'm doing that. Although intellectually, if you ask me the question, I'll be like, yeah, no, they don't like it when I'm late.
Hmm. Hmm.
The
Yeah.
second question
And
is, well,
and
why are you
also
always late then? I don't know.
also embarrassment and shame is a big, it can
Yeah,
help us deny a lot of things too when we're
totally.
just
Yeah.
I know I shouldn't do this and I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. And then we blank.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of that in organizations. We've already alluded to fitting in as opposed to belonging, with the masks that we wear to work for very good reasons. How do you see leaders reacting to your request either implicitly or explicitly, for them to get curious about that, Julie, because it's sort of still a taboo subject, isn't it?
Well, then they see that they have to model it.
Yeah.
That's basically it's just look, this is so one of the things we also sometimes when we're doing deep teamwork is we'll ask people to guess what all of their other team members' preferred forms of respect are. And to also guess, hey, what is your collective teams? As a
Nice.
team, what do
Yeah.
you prioritize? And so often what the team will prioritize also happens to be the individual leaders. And the leader will be like, oh, look at that.
Mm. Who'd have thought it?
Right? And it's just, well, why do you think that is?
Mm.
And so just so oftentimes it's just bringing this to their awareness because and not shaming them, not
No,
saying like this is what you
no,
should do. It's like,
no.
oh, this is what people guessed.
Mm.
This is what people when we polled people, this is what they said.
Mm.
And so then that awareness, I mean, usually when I work with organizations, they actually want to learn. So I'm lucky
Yes,
in that.
yes, yeah.
Although I got to tell you, once I had a client who, I mean, he was just, I'm all about candor. And when we tried to practice it, he couldn't do it. And then
Interesting.
when we had our debrief, he said half the team was angry. And I think he was in that half, but he didn't want to tell me.
Ah,
So,
it's interesting though, isn't it? The difference between what we say and what we
mhm.
do.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Because
of
we, yeah,
aspiration. I think
yeah,
it's the word should.
yeah,
I
yeah,
should do this.
yeah.
I should expect this. I
Mm.
should give this.
Mm.
And that word should is socialized. We grew
Totally.
up with that.
Yeah.
And what we don't ask ourselves is, does that actually matter to me?
Mm.
Do I actually want to do that? And and if I don't want to do that, that means I have to practice inward curiosity
Yeah.
about why it I don't want to or why it does matter. And
Mm.
so that there's that extra self-reflection piece
Mm.
that
Mm.
requires time.
And I think that's also why I like this work is because it's busting myths on
Hmm. Hmm.
leadership of good leaders do this, bad leaders do that. And this is one of those things that we should be like this. We should be vulnerable. We should be curious. We should be always learning. So we'll say we are.
Hmm.
And then when we're actually challenged, we're even more defensive because deep down we know we're not.
Hmm.
Tell me a little bit more about inward curiosity because, we spoke about self-awareness in the beginning and leadership is an inside job, as we know.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, what's the biggest obstacle you see and you come across with people on inward curiosity? Because before, I've never called it inward curiosity, but I really like that term because everyone says, "Oh, I do the inside work," and I do, but I think curiosity is different from inquiry. And
Hmm.
getting curious about yourself got me really curious about
Hmm.
how I would do that.
Hmm. And so, Ashley, I have a TEDx talk called "Curiosity as a Practice," and I talk about inward curiosity here
Mm,
because sometimes it can be really embarrassing to admit what it is
mm,
that of what is blocking us, of what our expectation is.
mm,
And so I'll give an example that I actually gave in my talk where I was presenting on seven forms of respect and someone really challenged my work and basically called it a waste of their time. And and this was public. And at first I was angry because
of
I was
course.
defensive, I was
Mm,
angry. And then when I really dug into it, I had to admit I'd given this talk numerous times. I was expecting to be applauded for it, right? Embarrassing to admit, right? That was my expectation.
mm,
And so, I think a lot of people's initial reaction when they're meeting conflict or feeling the defensiveness is it's a challenge to the identity. It's a challenge to what they know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And for that to be challenged, that means I have to really probe there
Mm,
and maybe acknowledge some things that I don't
mm.
want to
Yeah,
acknowledge.
yeah, fair enough.
Mhm. Because that challenges my identity as being a humble person.
Yes, of course.
right?
It's an ego reaction
To
to,
have
yeah,
to have a pride is, oh, that's, and yet, and the thing is, Susie, we can be we can be both. We can have pride. We
yeah,
can also be humble. There's
yeah,
there's just and we can have all of these mixed feelings. And that's, I think, moving away from that. It's either this or this. It's actually
yeah,
multiple things at the same time
yeah. And
is something, it's about embracing that.
yeah, and that's hard, isn't it? Because we're sort of managing polarities, but there's a whole sea of things in the middle, so it's not as simple as it as this or that.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
think if you put that on top of everyday work life, whatever your work life is, whether it's organized in an organization or in a community or in a hospital or in a law firm or whatever, um, we don't have time, or that's what we feel and that's what we tell ourselves to deal with the messy middle, if you like.
Hmm.
So we tend to look at one extreme and sort of stay there. What, which for me is a sort of inhibits curiosity. And you've done lots of research on this and lots of experiential work on this. What's the most surprising thing you've seen about curiosity in practice?
So I actually had to, so in my early years when I was leading workshops and I would teach people the structure of approaching difficult conversations with curiosity,
Mm,
and then it's just okay, you tell them what they did, you talk about how you felt about it,
mm,
and then you ask them some questions to understand. And the reaction would be, why do I have to ask questions when I know? I know why they did what they did, right?
okay. Case in
That feels
point.
passive to me. That feels passive. Why
Yeah.
am I asking a question when I know the answer? And that's when I realized I had to create this speed bump.
Mm, nice.
Before we could ask the questions,
Mm,
before we can even formulate the questions for the other person to try to understand their perspective, we have to slow down and ask ourselves two questions. As I'm entering this conversation, do I want that person to learn from me, to listen to
mm,
me?
mm.
Mhm. Second question, am I willing to learn from them? And whenever I ask that, people are like, oh,
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
this, let me think about that. I hadn't asked myself that.
Mm,
And Susie, we can all perform listening.
yes.
And
Yeah.
even convincing ourselves, because going back to that I should listen.
Yeah.
And so, and so I tell people, it's okay if you're not ready. Then don't go into that conversation. Go practice with someone else.
And do they take that as a failure or do they take that as a piece of advice?
They take that as a, oh, this is a helpful structure.
Okay. Okay.
It's okay. It's permission.
Yeah. All right. Nice.
It's permission. And I also tell people now, when you go talk to someone, you're not just venting, right? You're actually saying, I'm stuck and I've done this. I'm stuck. Can you help me see this in a different way?
Mm, mm,
Because I can't possibly understand any other, I don't think that they could give me any other answer than the one I think that they're going to give me. So I don't know why I should ask this question, why I should
it's
ask them questions. And it's people find, oh,
uh,
we often do this in pair shares. My partner gave me some questions I hadn't thought about.
mhm. How strange is
Oh. Right.
that?
And this is where it's the peer coaching and when we can learn from one another. And it's not
Yeah.
just about going to your manager to get advice. Oftentimes you can just get advice from someone who has a different perspective than you,
Mm,
who is your peer, or it doesn't have to be this formal structure.
mm. Which is also a way of putting people on the same level
Hmm.
differently. But it never ceases to amaze me, Julie, how quickly we box ourselves into definitions or boxes or roles, and then we struggle to get out. And then, of course, the blinkers are everywhere, aren't they? So,
Hmm.
and in a time when we need to take our blinkers off, we're putting them all back on.
Well, this is where some people think to say I changed my mind is weak.
Mm,
and and to and
yeah,
so there's admitting that I'm wrong, which is even saying like I changed my mind.
yeah.
It can it's just, well, do you not have integrity? Were you not principled? Did you not have a real strong opinion? It's like I heard other people. Hmm. That was
Mm,
some really interesting conversation, and I I've changed my mind. And that's the before you can change your mind, you have to be open.
Yeah.
So being able to answer yes to
Yeah.
that second question, am I willing to learn from them?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is another way, am I willing to change my mind on this?
Mm.
If I truly am entering this conversation with curiosity, then I am allowing for a possibility that my mind might be changed.
Mm.
And am I ready for that?
Mm. And so my assumption and bias is that this discussion is a discussion about humans and it doesn't matter where they live and work. So I
Mhm.
know you don't only work with corporates, you also work with non-for-profits and communities. And I'm really interested, Julie, if you see differences in the way the context comes and influences these reactions, or are we just talking about a messy human problem which is the same in all contexts?
I think that there is a messy human problem. And
Mm.
also, I mean, Susie, we've been talking about the workplace, but
Yeah.
even just think about this in the personal context, and then it's
Oh,
also
yeah.
it's even messier.
It's
But
harder in the personal context.
right, so the I do see a difference in terms of the so I don't want to absolutely generalize. We
Mm,
work actually with a lot of government and nonprofits, and
mm,
what we've discovered is because in those settings, they really want to invest in their
mm.
employees, especially in government, because it's just they want them to grow
Yeah.
within an org or stay within an org. Retention is
Mm,
really important. I spent 9 years working in the tech industry. That's very transactional because it's just people can pay.
mm.
The tech
Yeah.
companies are
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
you are either performing or you're not. It's a more of a transactional
Yeah.
relationship, less of an investment. It's just,
Yeah.
we expect you to perform at this level and we are compensating you at that. And if you cannot do that,
Yeah.
then we do not need to continually invest in you because then also more people are coming out of school. It's just it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah. Of
it is.
course.
I think it's the mentality of are we going to actually invest
Mm,
in the relationship building and the
mm,
culture building,
mm.
and so but I also don't want to say that that private companies don't do that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that in my experience with our clientele, because
Mm,
we do have private clients who really do care
yeah.
about building the
Mm.
culture.
But it is contextual, isn't it? And I mean, joking apart, it is often, and we've already had this conversation, it is a little bit harder in a personal landscape than it is in the professional landscape where you have less emotional attachment.
Absolutely. And I ask people, what is what's the purpose of you being together?
Mm,
And so at the workplace, it's very clear. We've got this mission, we've got this
yeah.
product, we've got this service. And in a family setting, it's just to be together.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's really it. And
Mm,
so and because it's so the very purpose is to be together, which means you have to work a lot harder at being together. Whereas in the workplace, it's just, oh
mm,
well, you are exhibiting behaviors that are not helping us
yeah.
deliver this
Yeah.
product.
Yes.
So
Yeah. But and I think that's interesting about the seven types of respect because you can come from the same family, the same education, the same culture, but it doesn't mean that your seven forms of respect are the same, does it?
no, yeah,
Yeah.
and it goes back to there are our identities are so layered. And so Susie, when talking about respect, uh, when I was first doing this research, when I was first doing this research, I would just say, how do you want to be treated at work? And that's when
Mm,
people talked about respect.
mm,
And then I said, what does respect mean to you? And people talk about the golden rule. Treat people
mm.
the way you want to be treated.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I remember. Yes. Oh,
Right.
we're going to talk about the rubber band rule.
Yes,
I
and so
love this.
I have the rubber band rule. And so I have what I actually call the rubber band rule. And so um oh, I have a rubber band here. My rubber band. This is a blue rubber band. And with the rubber band rule, it means that we can all stretch. We're all stretchy, actually. Susie,
Mm,
I know you. I know it's really important for me to prepare for meetings and read all your agendas and stuff. And even if I'm ambivalent, I stretch for you.
yeah.
And we actually take pride in stretching for people.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like, I know, I'm going to be respectful. I'm going to stretch. And so what ends up happening though is in some settings, we're stretching and stretching and stretching so much that we snap and break.
Yeah. I love the analogy. I love the rubber band rule. It's
Like a rubber
so
band.
true.
We snap and break it like a rubber band. And yet sometimes, Susie, we blame other people for breaking it.
Quite
versus
often, I
us
would
not
say.
knowing. Us not knowing. And I totally admit that I am someone who's so stretchy that sometimes I don't even know my breaking points until I have snapped.
Mm,
And then it's over. It's like, okay, I flipped, right?
mm, mm,
Um, the thing is, in our rubber band, the stretchiness of our rubber band can change depending on the context. At home, I'm way more stretchy
mm. Interesting.
than at work.
Yeah, yeah.
At work, I'm just, no, here's it. This is as much as I'm going to stretch.
Mm,
We're not. And that's actually been something for me learning as a first-time CEO
yeah, yeah,
that, hey, no, this is my boundary.
yeah.
Or no, this is a hard no,
Mm,
which can be from someone who is so stretchy. It's like, oh, I have to declare that.
yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Boundaries is the hardest thing,
Mhm.
I think. It to if you're not used to it, that muscle is quite hard to get going, isn't it?
Mhm. 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 Mhm.
Interesting.
It, mhm.
Mm. So, I mean, I think it makes me curious what you're saying about how stretchy. And when we first had this conversation, I asked myself the question, and now I'm getting curious about it again. How stretchy am I outside of work and inside of work? Is there a difference? Which inevitably there is, but why?
Mhm.
So, I'm not going to get stuck on that now, but I'm going to leave our listeners with that question. It's a super interesting inquiry question to get curious about. Will your rubber band break at work or at home? And if it breaks more in one place than the other, why? I think that's a great homework assignment.
Yes, it's just that it's again that practicing that inward curiosity and being
Yeah.
able to tell people
Yeah.
because oftentimes if we don't tell people and then it snapped. I
Mm.
actually see this a lot with friendships,
Yeah.
especially among women,
Mm.
where
Mm.
it's something snaps and like I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Right? And just
Yeah.
we're not going to talk about it. And then maybe the relationship could also just end too.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, "Hey,
Mm.
again, this kind of goes back to my mind can change or
Yeah.
I can have a new insight that I didn't have before. And so how do I communicate that?
Mm. Mm. But I mean, if we go back to the should and the socialization of women in society, I think they stretch a lot more and they feel
Hmm.
that they have to stretch a lot more to fit into often organizations or societies that weren't made for them.
Hmm.
But now our position in those systems has changed. And that, this is why this is going to be my go-to question, particularly for women leaders about the rubber band, because the difference between pleasing and serving
Hmm.
is sounds small, but it's big in terms of the personal cost and how much you stretch yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I mean, I see that in women's leadership programs. It's something that comes back all the time. They're already stretched, which is why there's no room to move. It's like, right, I'm not talking to you
Hmm.
anymore. It's like,
Well, there's pleasing, serving, and then I would add another one, which is adapting,
yeah,
right? Because, and then, and also in that, I would say that adapting could also include a reframe. I can't do this thing that you're asking me. I can do this though.
yes, yeah, yeah.
And so even having the feeling safe enough,
Mm,
having the confidence to offer something else.
mm,
Because I often will do a counter offer.
yeah, yeah. Which is also a way of placing a boundary.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah. We could go down so many avenues, but time is running, so I'm going to respect our time. Um, would you have one final call to action, Julie, for our listeners on how to keep curiosity and creative exploration when you're under pressure, either as an
Mm.
individual leader or as a team, because that's more or less everyone's reality today.
To when, if you're feeling heated,
Mm,
to give yourself permission to say, I'd like to return to this. I can't, I need some more time.
mm,
And to not feel that you have to answer everything right away. Because if
yeah.
you just say, I need a little more time to think about this, oh my gosh, so much miscommunication
Yeah.
and bad decision making, honestly.
Mm, yeah.
We could
Yeah.
prevent a lot of bad decision making if you just asked for that. If you
Mm.
just, and there's asking, there's declaring, I need that too.
Mm. So taking the time and permission to ask and put on the table what you want and what you need.
Mhm.
And I'm going to add
And
for our
that you
list.
need some more time to think about that too.
Yeah, and that's not
Don't
being
make
weak.
decisions in a
Yeah.
rushed manner. So,
Okay. Yeah, because often we see taking more time as we're not efficient enough. So that's really
hmm
important.
hmm
So taking the necessary time to make good quality decisions as opposed to rushed decisions. And I have to add my little takeaway of, and just think about your rubber band.
Yes.
Okay.
Think about how stretchy you are. What are your breaking points?
Yeah.
And sharing that with other people because even if you have an open conversation, and sometimes you can say, "What are your breaking points?" Well,
Yeah.
here are my breaking points, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a conversation.
You can have a breaking point party. Yeah.
Mhm.
Julie, thank you so much for coming and sharing your insights, your research, your stories. Where can people find out more about you, curiosity based, and what you do?
I am most active on LinkedIn, so you can find me at Julie Pham PhD. Please connect with me there, and you can also go to my website, Curiosity Based. That's
Mhm.
BASED.com. And I also have a YouTube channel, and we also have a podcast called Curiosity at Work, where we interview different industry leaders about how curiosity looks in their workplace.
Okay, super. Thank you. I'll put all those links in the show notes so that people can find you. All right, thank you. Thanks for a great conversation.
Susie, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.